Hello Ryan, so this is your video on how to operate your lightsaber. For everyone watching who doesn't know, this is the Kestis Survivor by Corbanth. This is the one that I did not buy myself. The last time I made one was for myself. That was the different metal version, so it's darker. This is the more chromed version, which honestly I think is super cool, and next time I have a Cal Kestis lightsaber I might actually keep this top and bottom section chrome, because I'm really liking how it looks, especially when the blade's in it. But anyways, let's get right into the lightsaber and the build itself. This was a nice change of pace because I actually got to install it with just a standard CFX, no extra features. So it was nice and simple and straightforward and quite enjoyable, so let's get right into it. I used the same chassis design as I did for my previous lightsaber because I had it all set up. So you got some really cool designs on here. It's just not painted or decorated at all. And let me get some kind of light here so I can show you the design changes I made. So since I don't have any USB-C, as you can see here, there we go, I just have the power switch that you gave me. And for everyone who's not in the know, which is everyone besides you, Ryan, we've got all the parts. He sent the parts to me in the same box as the lightsaber itself, and I could install it. The only thing I had to get was a speaker, because unfortunately this chassis and this lightsaber can't fit a 28mm speaker, no matter how hard I try to figure out how to fit it in. So it does take a 24mm speaker, but I don't think it really takes away that much from the lightsaber. But anyways, he provided me with everything else, the soundboard, the different connection bits, the power switch, the battery, the tabs, and the button, which I actually didn't use, which I'll go into later, and then the Neopixel connector. So he gave me everything I pretty much needed. I just needed to get a different speaker. So let's get right into the rest of this. As you can see here, I changed the OLED display area, and instead I put in Aurebesh Kestis Survivor. You'll be able to see that a little bit better in person, but it's there. Thought it was pretty neat. But as you can see, it looks very similar to the previous one that I made, except it's not in the copper look. So you've got your crystal focus soundboard here. Let's put my phone away over here. There we go. Got the crystal focus soundboard. I have the SD card at the top, so it's easier to access. And for the micro USB, it's just down there. You're going to need a right angle micro USB, or you pull it up. I wouldn't recommend pulling it up that much because eventually the hold of the chassis to the soundboard is going to loosen a bit. If it does loosen a bit too much where it no longer stays, you can either use Captain tape or just a really tiny dab of Loctite in the corners, just a very tiny one in the corners, and it'll do just fine. There we go, focus. Just little tiny drops of Loctite once you peel up the board, right on the sides of the board. Tiny dabs, push it in, and it'll be perfectly fine. So, in here we've got the 24mm speaker in this little divot here. This is the connector that came with the Kestis Survivor chassis from Corbanth, which is a little bit different than I'm used to. So I did have to, I believe for the one in the lightsaber hilt itself, I had to design the holder for it a little bit differently, because the solder points at the very bottom, I'll give you a little bit of a visual example. The solder points at the bottom stuck out a little bit, so the connector couldn't sit flat on its connector, which is partially why I changed the chassis. And then I changed the holder, so it's not using the one that you sent me. I will be sending this back to you, the holder. There we go. There we go. So this part here was really shallow, and when I put the chassis, the rotary chassis PCB in here, it wouldn't sit flat because it's so shallow. So I had to come up with a design that was a lot deeper and allowed for the excess solder points and joints to be sat on, so you could sit flat. But anyways, I put my own button in there. I put the rotary chassis PCB that it came with in there, and then I used the same Neopixel connector in the emitter and the Neopixel connector holder in the emitter as the one you sent me. So pretty much the only things I did was change the button, the holder here, and then the chassis. I did clean up all the solder points and solder joints on all the different pieces that you sent me, So it all works perfectly fine now, and you don't even see it on the soundboard because technically that was all on the opposite end, on the underside, or I guess the top side of the board that I have down there. And everything up here is nice and clean. So, anyways, we've got the battery. I will let you know that when you put the battery in, sometimes it might stick out a little bit too much to put into the... Oh, here we go, there's some E6000 right there. Anyways, when you put it into the hilt, sometimes it doesn't quite fit, so just put the battery in so that the front part sits as far down as possible. So just make sure you press on it, and then when you put it in the hilt, it'll slide right in with a little bit of resistance at the end, and then it'll connect with the pins up here. So to turn on your lightsaber, you just flick the switch.
I'm from the Resistance. Your sister Leia sent me. We need your help.
I have it started on this font because it's nice and blue. I figured it was a nice easy one to start on. It's not crazy. So pretty much I have all of the fonts that you sent or you had previously on your SD card. I just set it up and I updated the SD card because it was in a really old formation really. So I just took all the new stuff from the most recent build. I updated the firmware to the most recent build, and basically your SD card is brand new. I set up all of the standard CFX fonts along with the ones that you added in there with their own blade profiles and colors. So I'll show that off a little bit to you here. As you can see, it's turned on. We just put it in. I like to line up these little pillars with these pillars just because it should add a little bit extra room for the speaker to sound in there. So just push it in and then use the pommel to finish the job. And just press the button. There we go. I don't remember what volume I have it on, but it's probably at 60% volume right now. I think you can actually push it up higher. I just like having it on 60 because it's not too loud and not too soft for me. But you can change all that in the config file. So basically, just standard tap it to get the blaster blocks. Hold it for like half a second to turn it off. I did raise the amount of time it takes to hold the button to turn the lightsaber off. That way, when the lightsaber is on and then you hold it and clash, you have enough time to activate the clash sensor. So, I will also have this linked in the description. I'll have a bunch of stuff linked in the description to help customize your lightsaber, so you can go off and do that. And I'll also have the single switch quick interaction guide that'll tell you all the controls. I don't actually remember all of these, and I don't have enough time to go through every single one of these for you, but the basics are you just tap it to turn it on, or press it to turn it on, there you go. Smooth swing, you've got your standard clashes, tap it for blaster blocks, hold it and clash for blade lockup. I believe you can also like hold it and swing or something. Yep, that gives you your force effects. I also set up gesture control, so you can just twist it and it'll turn on, twist it and it'll turn off. And that's pretty much all you need to know for that. Let's put in the blade. The retention screw is up top, just unscrew it. Blade plug will slide right out, and if you look inside, you've got your Neopixel connectors, or your single Neopixel connector. And then, let me just quickly put in the blade here. There we go. You also have tip drag, but I have this set up for 144 Neopixel blade length, which is a little longer than mine. I don't know how long yours is, so you may have to adjust the settings. You go into the config file, change the LED strip number to however long your pixel number is in your blade. But you basically hold it at a 45-degree angle downwards, hold button and you clash, and then it'll do a tip drag, but as you can see it didn't show up because it's detecting it way out here. So, you can change your color by holding the button and twisting, which I think is pretty neat. We'll just cycle through all the colors here. I have 30 colors and, well, I have 32 colors and 32 blade profiles set up on here. If you want to change your amount of blade profiles, you're just going to have to keep it at 32, but replace one of the ones that already exists. Or just create your own setup. So keep that in mind. If you need any help with any customization stuff or have any questions, let me know or reference all the resources in the description. So I'll show you the lockup real quick. It's localized, so it'll change depending on the angle of your blade. And then if you want to swap fonts, there's two ways you can do it. You can either hold down the activation button while it's off and then clash.
Father's lightsaber, the weapon of a Jedi Knight.
And that'll go forward one, or you hold it. There are a couple menus that do come up as you hold the button. You've got your sound or your music file. I think there's a couple other things. There's your music file. And you can turn it off by just double tapping while the lightsaber is off. So you hold it, go past the music. That's your second music.
It's Red 5, I'm going in.
I actually don't know which one I left off on. Basically, hold the button for as long as you can until it goes into sound bank selection.
Commander Skywalker, do you copy?
And then you can just press the button and cycle through the sound font menu.
Audio player. SD card. System exit menu.
Nightfall.
So here's the start of all the Crystal Focus fonts. And I set each one of these up with pretty much their own color and blade profile so I can show off as many of the effects as possible. And then let's...
Crystal Focus.
This one's kind of a flickery effect. You can see some white come up in person.
Crystal Focus.
And I'll just cycle through these. Oh, there's the mutes. You hold it for like half a second or something before you turn it on. This is kind of an unstable blade, which you'll be able to see more in person. It all kind of melds together on screen. This one's really flickery. This one's really fun. You have a little energy beam that goes up and down. This one is kind of like almost like a lava lamp, where the energy is flowing up and down almost at random. It's really cool. This one's also quite flickery.
The Old Republic Crucible.
This one is more like an Eye of Sauron type thing, where you've got a little gap right there. I think it looks kind of cooler if you go to the orange or red.
The Old Republic Malign.
This is a fire effect. It's more white at the bottom and then it gets orange at the top. And if you want to get more blade profiles and color profiles or just any kind of resources as well, go to crystalfocus.net, because it's a really, really good resource. It's the best resource for Crystal Focus lightsabers. That'll also be just in the description of the video. Rainbow.
This is General Kenobi. Lovely. More smiling faces. Let negotiations begin.
Ancient prophecies.
Let it finish. Then.
I am what you made me.
Now we're on to all the fonts that you provided.
I am a Jedi, like my father before me. Outstanding. Mute.
Oops. I was on a roll too.
I need
There we go.
someone to show me my place in all this.
And now we're back to where we started. So I'm pretty sure that covers everything you need to know about this lightsaber. If you do have any questions, let me know. And you'll also have all the resources in the description along with this video if you forget anything that I've covered here. So I hope you like the lightsaber. I'll be sending it out later. And may the Force be with you. Oh, and I actually forgot to mention something about the lightsaber that I had to do to it to make it work. So as you can see here, the little screw that goes underneath the magnetic little box portion of the hilt, this screw was supposed to be a really tiny screw, but as you probably know, for whatever reason, it wasn't going to hold this this collar piece on. It was very loose. It just wouldn't latch on or anything. So I did something I've never done before. I got myself a thread tap, or whatever you call it, and I just found the M3 thread tap. I got to drill into it with the little tap thingy, and then that allowed me to use this larger screw that we had extras of in your bag. So I just put the larger screw in here and it happened to work perfectly. So that was pretty cool, and I got to do something I've never done before. So as you can see, it is really, really solid. So hopefully you like it.